Good Saturday morning, everybody, and welcome on in here to the Deej Peeps podcast, Season 2, Episode 2. I'm with my guys, Mr. Dewey Hurd and Rob Alchinsky, and a special guest in the house this morning. He is the All-Region AVCA Coach of the Year list and state runner-up of the Corey Beavers volleyball team, Mr. Kelly Goodsell. Coach, welcome in.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Rob, welcome back.
Thank you, sir.
Dewey, as always.
As always, good to be here.
What'd you eat for breakfast this morning, dude?
I had a couple of muffins, blueberry and banana nut with the grand boy.
With the grand boy.
Yeah, Justin was over, spent the night last night, so he ate most of the first one.
That's how you keep your girly figure up, right?
You know it.
That's how I keep mine up, too. It's whatever. Rob, welcome back. You've been MIA for a while. You had a rough week last week.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it was not a very fun experience, but on the mend and hopefully be back around this week a little bit.
Good. Coach,
Morning.
you've had a busy year this year.
It's it's been hectic, but fun.
So let's take it to the top. This year, in my broadcasting career, was probably the most exciting season of any sport that I've called. I don't often get excited about a road trip down to Freeport to open up a year. That was a little, was it? And then you had a week off after that. Mm-hmm. And it was like you gave me a little taste, and then you took it away from me. It was rough getting going there, but I'll tell you what. Watching these kids, now that class, senior class, they missed out on 8th grade, correct?
Missed out on one of the two, 7th or 8th grade. I think it was.
I remember
8th grade.
doing them in 8th grade at Fort Luff tournament.
So it must have been
so it was the 7th grade.
Yep. 2020.
Because I remember I got yelled at when we were affiliated with others that I went and covered a middle school volleyball match instead of doing a varsity softball game, which I had sent Brad Swanson to do, and that was not a good idea. But it was always a pleasure to cover this team, and you've got something going on today, right? JOs today?
Yeah, so today's our first open gym JO practice, so we'll have no seniors, but the junior class all the way down to 12-year-olds coming in for about a 3-hour session split up into 2 groups.
Does Pat ever take a break, ever?
Yeah, she does. Not very often, but she does. Yeah, she's off. She was off over the Thanksgiving holiday, and then she's starting JOs this week, and then in January she starts the rec program. And so lots of people have asked me, Pat never gets the credit, so let's just get this out of the way early, right? The reason that we have a consistently solid volleyball team and program is because of her work in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade program, her work along with Mark Brenner and Amy Allen and other coaches, Maddie Vona, et cetera, in the middle school program and in our JO program. And so when they get to high school, they know the basics, right? And then we can work on really in-game kind of details, but if we didn't have that rec program, we would not be where we are today.
And all sports, really. You look at our wrestling program, they had the kids wrestling on up, right? So it amazes me how some schools just don't get that, right? Like you look at our boys basketball program, they're starting to get them kids involved in it. I thought Jeff Goodwill with the football team has done a phenomenal job incorporating them other teams in, so when they get to the 8th grade level, they know the offense that they're going to be running when they step into the 9th, 10th grade role as JV players. Them little kid programs are where it's at.
Yep, it takes a lot of time by the coaching leadership, right? Because you got to be consistent in communicating to all your coaches that are coaching other younger kids, right? Jeff Goodwill can't coach football, middle school football, rec football. I mean, he's just not, you just need more coaches. And so when you spread out the coaching, list you need to spend more time with those coaches, teaching them and training them. And if you look at the wrestling program, the Muncie brothers have been involved, Harringtons have been involved. I mean, they've been, ever since I've been in Corey, they've been in that program, and so there's a consistency that results in a really good wrestling program because there's lots of coaches and they're all consistent in the way they're coaching. So
that brings me to the next question before we get into recapping this past year. With the sale of Viking Plastics obviously took place, and
didn't know that was coming up, but go ahead.
Yeah. Because you had commented that part of it when you won the state championship, and now this year with it.
Mm-hmm.
So with all this free time on your hands, and you're obviously planning on sticking around for a while in the coaching aspect, right?
We're going to take it 1 year at a time, and my plan is to be back next year, assuming the school will have me.
I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
I don't see why they wouldn't, right?
Yep.
So let's get to the meat of the season. We talked about Freeport already. Obviously, you play teams like that to get better. The first, I don't know, Rob, what was it? The first 3 or 4 games of the year were really fun to watch. And then as the region schedule got going, then it becomes you're just dominating everybody. So what's your overall thoughts on the season? The beginning part of it, especially against like Prep and Clarion and teams like that.
Yeah, well, so as we did last year and the year before that, right, we're trying to schedule non-region matches that are as challenging as possible. So we knew Freeport was going to be good. They moved up to AAA. I really thought that we had a legitimate shot at beating them. And first set, was an awesome, 33-31 or something like that, 31-29. And then when we came back home, we said, okay, who else in the non-region area is, challenging? And so, Clarion, Maplewood, Cochranton, we wanted to play some tough teams. We tried to get Warren on the schedule, which would have been a really tough match, but their schedule was full. So, those non-region matches are opportunities to figure out what, is going well, what we need to continue to improve on. And every time you play a different team, they have a different skill set. They have, a big outside, or they have a big middle, or they're running a 6-2, and it teaches your kids to learn different aspects of the game when you're playing those different competitors. And so we knew if we wanted to go deep into the playoffs, we needed to play tough teams early, and that's why we schedule it, and we'll schedule it again that way next year as well. And then the region is the region. We don't get to set that.
Right.
I think our region is getting better. Northeast took a step backwards compared to the prior 2 years when they had Cadence Jones and Forsyth and San Filippo.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they had a stud couple of years, but, they lost a lot last year. But Fairview's getting better. Cathedral Prep obviously, really played well moving down from AAA to AA. So, yeah, you play who's on the schedule and go from there.
How important did you think it was, Kelly? So the Freeport match, right? I mean, obviously, right, you schedule that because you want to go compete. And like you said, you kind of thought you had the team this year, right, that could go head-to-head with them. And first set was great. And then it kind of went south after that. But to me, right, as the season went on and I looked back at that, I kind of looked at it and said, that little bit of a whooping early may have been good, right? I mean, this team, and I won't mention names, Scott had been put on Mount Rushmore before the season had started, right?
Yep.
And yet they hadn't won anything yet, right? And so, so to me that match may have been an important one from hey, there is a lot of work to do standpoint, right?
Yep. It as you mentioned, this group, especially the seniors, have played a lot of volleyball. JOs, they finished third 1 year in all of OVR, Ohio Valley region. Last year they finished second and so they've really competed at a high level and done very well. And so coming into the season, there was an air of cockiness and air of confidence that Rightfully so. We want our kids playing with that level of confidence, but there's also a level of respect and knowledge that, hey, there's a lot of good teams and a lot of good volleyball players in Northwest Pennsylvania. And so having a little chip knocked off the shoulder, I think helped us. It renewed the coaching intensity to say, you know what, we got to do better. And so, yeah, and that, I think you could say the same thing 2 years ago when we lost to Warren. And so, yeah, we want to compete, but sometimes getting beat is okay.
Well, we get into the regular season, the Region 4 championship against Cathedral Prep. 3-1 early on in the season. Cathedral Prep, the two middles, outside of them, they've got a great libero, I thought, in Mackenzie Moore. You look at the all-region team, it's Corey and Prep. And that matchup is it's been fun to watch all year. That third one wasn't as fun to call. It almost put me in the hospital. But and I don't know how many times I've had to say it, but I go back and I watch that and I'm like, what in the heck happened? Because it looked like we went from Corey to like it wasn't Corey volleyball. A lot of that nerves.
Yeah, so for whatever reason, for as much as we have played, there is a level of confidence that kids carry on the court. And you saw it in the second and third set at Freeport. You saw it in the first and second set at Richland. You saw it in the first and whatever it was, the third set that we just got embarrassed against Cathedral Prep. Or maybe it was the second set, either one. Yep. Where the kids just, it's a momentum in the game of volleyball is a huge thing. And when one kid gets served at and they make a mistake, there's two paths. One is you get back in the court and you pass the next ball, or you shank the next ball. And once you shank the next ball, guess what? You're going to shank the next one and the next one and the next one. And, watch the NCAA playoffs that were on last night. People are dominating, and all of a sudden one kid gets into the serve receive and makes a mistake, and next thing you know, confidence starts waning. You can't get the ball to the setter can't set the hitters, or doesn't have a lot of options. You get very predictable, and all of a sudden it becomes very easy on the defensive side to play. It's almost like playing another sport, football or basketball, and at some point you take a couple people off the field on the other side of the court, right? Or on the other side of the field. It's like playing 11 against 9 because those two kids just, aren't available. You can't throw a wide receiver. You can't hand it off the running back. And so, you listen to all the coaches. It's all about serve and pass. And we were not passing well. And when you don't pass well, you don't have much of an offense, and it's hard to win.
Yeah, because I would say, Scott said it wasn't Corey volleyball. Part of that, right, is when you play equal competition, right? They're putting that same pressure on you that you're trying to put on them, right?
Exactly.
They put you into those positions because they serve harder, the balls are heavier, all those things, right? And they make you kind of make those errors that you don't make against a team that just float serving everything over to you time after time after time,
exactly.
Right? Which is the key to that. But so. My follow-up question to that, Scott, would be, so, we knew talent-wise you guys were loaded, right? Conditioning or wise, you guys have improved in that with Rich and everything that's happened there. But, how do you prepare the girls for, like you talked about, volleyball is momentum. And the difference to me about volleyball of other sports is, if in a basketball game or a football game, you go down 20-0 in the first quarter, that is a hole you must dig out of forever, right? And Scott and I talked about it in the prep match for the semifinals of, okay, but the good news is how bad you got beat in the third set doesn't matter. It could have been 30-28.
Correct.
And it doesn't matter, right? It's a loss, so you got to come back from that, but you don't have to make up the gap that happened, right? Because, the wheels fell off for a little bit. But, it's the roller coaster, right? Volleyball is the most roller coaster sport I've ever been around, and it's so momentum driven. How do you guys, like I said, talent wise, it's easy to coach them to, hey, put your arm in this position, have this form, do this, but mentally, right? I mean, they're 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old girls. How do you prepare them mentally for that roller coaster?
Yeah, so our theme this year, the word that we used every day from the beginning of the season was trust, right? And some of that was trying to minimize the drama that comes from a team that, you got 9 seniors that all want to play. You've got 3 or 4 or 5 sophomores that are all fighting to get on the court and probably arguably should have been on the court at some point. You got 4 juniors that are all contributing, not only in practice but in games. And there were going to be lots of days, you've coached before, right? So lots of days where every parent in the gym is going to go home and say, well, Susie should have been playing, right? And we need to trust each other. You got to trust the coaches that I'm not only going to play the people today to win, but I'm also going to play the people that are going to develop the program for next year and the year after, right? And so you need to trust your teammates, and you need to trust your coaching, and you need to trust your techniques. And so as we went through the season, we used that word, especially like at Richland. When we got down 0-2, we said, hey, you just got to trust the process, right? All we got to do is win one game, and then we just win another one, right? I mean, it's not like we got to worry about the last 2 that we lost, because there's nothing we can do about that. We just got to trust each other and go out and do what we're capable of doing. And so that word we used a lot, and it's really about, them trusting me, right? That we're going to do what we say we're going to do. And then once you get a little bit of momentum, like, Hallie getting those first 5 or 6 points in set 3 against Richland, you knew that we had turned the corner and it was going to be okay. And so, sports is confidence. Sports is being under control, and we try to build that up throughout the season. We were really hard in practice on kids in terms of trying to, the hardest part of our sport in our program is practice. Because when you get to the game, everything you've seen in practice should prepare you for what you're doing. The only times that we can't have that confidence is if we're going up against a 6'2" or 6'3" kid like Emma Parks at Meadville, for example, right? 5 years ago, we'd bring my boys in, JP and Austin, and they would kind of simulate that. But today we don't have that. So it's really building confidence in the kids and letting them trust the process.
Well, I don't know what you said to them in between games in that Richland match, in between games 2 and 3. But when you broke the huddle to come out onto the floor again, I was on the field camera or floor camera in the corner, and when Hallie started serving, it just, the whole aura of the girls on the floor was, it was like a completely, you could feel it.
Yep.
It was palpable. You could just feel that they were at a different state of mind or whatever, and they just, I would have loved to have been in your huddle, because you said something and all the girls clicked. It all clicked with them, and they all bought into it or whatever, and when they came out onto that floor and started playing that third set, they could just tell that they were in a different level.
In 2016, we were down, you might remember, we were down 0-2 to Northeast, and one of the things I said to the kids in that huddle at that time was, hey, their passing is going to break down eventually. We just have to keep serving the same kid and serving aggressive. And when that passing breaks down, then we get to go on offense. And I said something similar to that against Richland, that they were passing very well. They were passing well enough to keep themselves in system. And, we're playing them point for point. And as soon as Hallie got up and served those first 2 points, and we're picking on the tall senior, I think her number was number 1, got her aced a couple of times, then the libero got aced once, I knew that we were starting to roll. And it was just, it's giving them the confidence that they can do it.
Well, we'll take a quick break. We got to pay the people that pay us to do this. So we'll step aside, and we get back, we'll talk about the playoffs and kind of talk about the recognition that some of these players got, and as well as yourself. You got a trip coming up here. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back on the Deej Peeps podcast in just a few. Sit tight. We'll be back after this from our sponsors.
So I'm Brad Allen at Rossbacker Insurance, and I just want to say that we're here to help you out. We can customize an insurance program for your family, for your business, whether you're a manufacturer, a contractor, a restaurant, a church, a civic organization. We have experience with all of those, and we insure a number of them. So we can help you out. We've got multiple carriers. We can put together a great program, customized to your needs, bundle it all together, get you great discounts. So give us a call or look us up on our website, teamrossbacker.com.
I do this because I love it. I love working with my hands. I love working with people. I love watching things transform from what they used to be to what we can make them become. We are a full-service general contractor. We do everything from the ground up. We take pride in the fact that we don't use a lot of subcontractors. We have our own in-house masons, cement, roofers, siders, drywall finishing, electricians. This is our 20th year in business. Our employees mean the world to us. We couldn't do what we do without the guys that we have. And we take pride in the fact that most of the guys that have been here for a very long time. If you're looking to have a project done, feel free to reach out to us.
There'd be a lot of things that didn't get accomplished if it wasn't for the Corey Community Foundation. They've just really been a driver behind improving the community.
3 of the organizations that I'm heavily involved with get assistance along with grants from the Corey Community Foundation.
Organizations know that they are backed up, that they have somewhere to go if necessary for their funds.
You don't have to be a millionaire. You can leave couple $100, you could leave a couple $1,000, you can leave whatever. When everybody pulls together, it makes a big difference.
Your money is long going to outlive you for the benefit and the good of the community. So by going through the Corey Community Foundation, it will ensure that our money gets put in the places we care about here within Corey.
And welcome back in here to the Deej Peeps Sports Podcast. Scott Lockwood here with you with my guys Dewey Hurd, Rob Elchinsky, and special guest Coach Kelly Goodsell of the Corey Beavers volleyball team, and a pretty successful go about it. The town was in a complete frizzy as the playoffs got underway, Coach. And you mentioned Fairview, who is getting better. I'm curious to see what they're going to be like next year, because that's going to be a fun matchup. But we get Neshannock at home. First home game ever for volleyball, correct?
First state playoff game at home, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So they come in. I thought we were probably better suited to play somebody else. Mm-hmm. They really didn't have an answer for anything we were throwing at them. But then you go on to the Richland match, which is, I thought, where the next level really started kicking up a gear. And I thought we talked about in that third set, the girls really responded well. You go to the state championship game. Now, I have an issue with a lot that happened on that day. I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but you take a 5.5-hour bus ride. You stay in a hotel. The other team sleeps in their own bed. They take a 20-minute road trip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's not set the week before the tournament.
Right.
That where they're holding that tournament is set a year ahead of time. I mean, that's just good luck for them and bad luck for us.
I understand that.
Yep.
But my problem with it is this: you take a place to play somewhere in between. Why does it have to be a set location?
Well, I'm not on the PIAA board that sets that up, but the idea is to have all of them back to back. So the volleyball matches are all in the same location. so that they can celebrate the sport, right? Very similar to the
I get that
NCAAs,
part.
right? They've got the semifinals on Thursday and then the finals on Sunday. They're all in Louisville, and guess what? Louisville's one of the final 8 teams. So if Louisville gets all the way to the Final Four, then they're going to get to play on their home court. You know, at the end of the day, there's not much I'm going to do about it.
Right.
You know,
We have to play.
we got to play the people who are on the schedule.
The other part to that
Is the other part, right?
is the other part, right? The Trinity, who I'm told had 20 schools that they select kids from, and we can talk all day long about public school, private school, and that mess. I don't know if you want to get into that part of it, but my perspective, and I've always had that perspective because we have the problem here with Cathedral Prep, right? They're going to dominate anybody that's in Erie County with the exception of maybe McDowell. So if you're the PIAA, if you're part of the PIAA and you're getting a lot of clamoring from not just fans, but other coaches and so on and so forth, how do you fix that problem? Like, should we start having the private school in their own separate playoffs?
Yeah, that's probably a decision above my pay grade.
Right.
You know, I think depending on the sport and depending on the cycle, you know, one year to the next year, it you know, moves back and forth between public and private. And I think it really comes down to the programs that put the time in, right? So if you look at it in Northwest Pennsylvania, it's Maplewood, it's, you know, Cochranton, it's Sagertown, it's Fort LaBeouf, it's Corey, that, you know, over the last 20 years consistently make it into the playoffs and consistently are putting out quality programs in volleyball, right? If you look at, you know, basketball, Kennedy Catholic happens to be, you know, Cathedral Prep, Villa Marie, you know, they happen to have the programs, but you also have, you know, Doug Chusey, who's been coaching for 20 plus years, and he's got a program, and he really works that program. If you look at Cathedral Prep on the volleyball side, they haven't had a volleyball program, a successful one, for many years. It just happened to be this group of kids that they brought in, and it's not like they went out and recruited these kids. I mean, these kids were in the in the pipeline. So, at the end of the day, you know, I said this to a couple of people after the state finals match. I was extremely proud of how our kids played against a really, really good team.
Oh, absolutely.
And nobody wants to lose, but I would rather have played that match than played a team that we beat 25-12, 25-12, 25-15, right? Because it really was, you know, the championship match. It was two of the best teams in the state. There, you know, arguably 3 or 4 other teams that could have been in that same situation. Richland, Forest Hills, DeLone Catholic, Cathedral Prep. I mean, there's 6 or 7 teams that all can play at that level. But I'd rather play at that level and be competitive and play well, and let the chips fall, than, you know, beat teams that we know we can beat.
Right. So I was talking after the match to a few people, and I said, you know what? Because of the way our girls played, I would have liked to have brought that team to Cathedral Prep and played them there and see if there was a difference in the score, right?
Yeah.
Just to have the home court advantage. And I will say this, and Dewey and I have talked about it, Beaver Nation showed up 5.5 hours away. The phenomenal support that we had down there, I've never seen anything like it for a high school game.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. The flip side, though, that I would throw out is this thought, that having the walk through the high school, we took a coach bus to all the elementary schools and, you know, high five the kids. We had a, you know, practice at a you know, neutral site the night before in the morning of the state championship match, having a team dinner. I mean, those are going to be memories that the kids have.
Right.
And they wouldn't get that if the game was at Cathedral Prep. It would have been just we slept at home. We had practice. Denise Clark made us breakfast, and then we went and played volleyball at Cathedral Prep, which we know, right? I mean, having the experience of being in that school and having, like you said, the Corey population. I mean, hopefully somebody was turning off the lights when everybody left, because there were so many people from Corey that made that trip. It's something the kids will remember forever.
And two, the amount of people that were at the watch party, and not to mention everywhere else. We had people laughing at Dewey and I because they'd have the game up, and then they'd have Dewey and I up on another thing, and they'd turn our volume up and their volume down. And one thing I wish the PIAA would get out of is this exclusive coverage stuff, especially in the play. We cover our team all year long, and then when we get to the biggest game of the year, we can't cover it.
You could.
That is a problem for me.
Put your bid in, and you could cover it.
But you know what I got told? Here's what I got told. So I have, when I create all them posters that we put up on Facebook, I had the PIAA logo on them. They called me and said, you got to take that logo off. It's trademarked, and you're not allowed to use it unless you have a contract with us. Right. And I asked them, I'm like, well, how do I get a contract with you? They wouldn't answer me. They said, well, it's nothing to do against you little guys. It's just unless you're the NFHS or the PCN network, we don't.
Yep.
So how is it fair to us? You talk to anybody in District 10, and they, like Fort LaBeouf, for example, when we covered one of their games on a whim, we just went and did a playoff game. And we had 4 or 5 different comments from Fort LaBeouf people saying somebody should take this to PCN and tell them that this is how you cover a game. Those compliments we don't take lightly.
Sure.
Like we strive to give the best product, and as big as a misfit crew as we got, Captain Firmware over there, we love covering our team, and I just wish they would let us do the big match.
Well, my comments to my kids is life is not fair, right? You just got to keep competing, and the best team will win eventually.
Yeah. So we get down there, we get back from States. What was that bus ride home like?
So the first, and we've done this a number of times, right? Coming back from state playoff games, and the first hour, first 15 minutes, it's nothing but where's the pizza and where's the food, right? And then I take an hour and I meet with every kid, the whole team, and they sit next to me on the bus, and we just kind of recap the season. For the seniors, obviously, it's a bittersweet moment, but it's fun. And then for the juniors through the freshmen, and I didn't talk to the managers, but juniors through the freshmen, it's, hey, this is your opportunity to step up next year, right? And so that first hour and a half to 2 hours is pretty quiet. And, kids take naps, they're eating, they're, reminiscing, they're sad because of the loss. And then by the end, it's fun. It's a party. Police and fire trucks are leading us back into town, and people are standing out in the street at, whatever it was, 8:00 at night, and, still waving the banners. It was things that the kids remember forever. So it was fun. Which we missed because we stayed down there an extra day and just kind of made it a vacation. And I'm like, doggone it. Yeah. But we want to talk the seniors specifically, but there's a lot of these kids that got recognized all over, all region, all district. We had 4 all-state players. You get put on the ABC a Coach of the Year list, all region. Yep. And people, they just don't realize how much goes into that end of it. They see the end results. Mm-hmm. They don't see the everyday where you're getting there practice 2 a days. They don't see any of that. So talk about some of the kids in
there's one I want to talk about specifically going into next year, but this senior class has been amazing to watch.
Yeah, so for all region, all district purposes, a lot of that is typically newspaper oriented, or the PVCA, the Pennsylvania Volleyball Coaches Association. And as a coach, you're required or requested to nominate, X number of kids, right? And so it's hard to nominate 9 kids from your team in a sport where there's only 6 or 7 that are on the court. Right. So, some of the kids that didn't get the end of the season recognition that quite honestly could have been or would have been starters on any other team. Sadie Dine's a big one. Emily Carr, Sid Woods, and Kendall Chamberlain, not able to play, but had she been able to play, would have been right there with them as well. So those 4 kids didn't get the postseason recognition that probably was due. But the kids that did, phenomenal season. Peyton and Allison were both all region, all district. McKenna, Hallie, Aubrey, Grace were not only all region, all district, but also all state. We have that saying, when the team does well, the individuals get recognized in this sport. That really does happen. And so, Hallie Albers was a 6 rotation, the only player on the court that didn't come off pretty much all season. And so, yeah, it was a great season. I'm super proud of the kids, the way they handle things on and off the court. They're going to, you've already seen how they're contributing to the basketball program. A lot of them are going to be contributing to the softball program. One of the questions I asked is, do you think you can do this in softball, right? And so it's an opportunity for that group of seniors to be leaders throughout their high school career. So,
and they've got a bunch of juggernauts coming up.
Yeah,
and that softball team does. There's that middle that needs filled, because that's you got your shortstop, your center fielder, and your catcher that you're trying to replace now, which is the key of that team. But Peyton, Sawyer, Dine, they're all going to be pitching.
Yep.
Kendall on that. Hopefully she's back ready to go, but she's on that hot corner, and they're going to need her there. And then you're probably going to have Sid Minio at shortstop now.
Yeah, I don't know where she'll play, but I think she'll be definitely on the field. And then you got some other kids coming up, Reagan Kemp and others that play a lot of softball. So yeah, I mean, lots of people talk about the competing sports, and we don't, small school, you don't have time to play multiple sports, and my answer is they're complementary. I mean, basketball and volleyball are complementary from the standpoint of quick twitch muscles, being able to jump, being able to use your body to do certain things. And, the arm strength of our kids coming through the Little League softball program is always better than 50% or 60% of the region, just because they're playing softball. I mean, Sagertown's got a strong softball team. Cochranton's got a strong softball team. Those young kids learning how to throw helps when it comes time to hit a volleyball. And so it's complementary.
And I think it was interesting watching some of the NCAA stuff yesterday. The Creighton coach, right, talked about, she wants athletes. She doesn't want a volleyball player. She wants athletes, right? And they talked about the setter was the Gatorade track and athlete of the year in their state, and those kinds of things. And I think sometimes that gets lost on parents, right, where they think, my daughter or my son should be a volleyball player or a basketball player or a baseball player, and they don't realize that lots of coaches out there do want to say, I mean, you hear all the time of these guys getting recruited, players getting recruited out of their sport, right? I mean, they're a football player, but the coach comes and watches him plays a basketball game and says, wow, he's 6'7" and 290 pounds and moves like that on a basketball court. We want him to come play football for us. Yep. Or wrestle or whatever those things are, and I think that's important for people to recognize, like you said, that, you want to be a well-rounded athlete and be able to display that. Since
Fair State's playing Slippery Rock today in football, number one ranked team in the country, 2 years ago or 3 years ago when Ferris State won the national championship, their quarterback was a fifth-year senior. In the 4 years prior, he was a lacrosse player. He was the National Lacrosse Player of the Year and came to Ferris and ended up being the starting quarterback and won the national championship for him. So, yeah, multi-sport athletes is what you want on any team.
And don't limit yourself, right? You never know what you're going to get, and we got a lot of 3-sport athletes, sometimes 4, in Corey right now, and it's great to see the senior class. You know, you look at Savage, you look at Carey, along with all the seniors on the volleyball team. This senior class is going to be missed in Corey sports in general.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into the 25-26 season, and a lot coming up. A lot of decisions to be made because there's a lot of holes on the team now that are going to be filled by the second best team in District 10. We'll be back with that right after this.
We're insurance agents. Of course, we're going to ask you about all the residents of your household, including Granny, who doesn't drive your car. We're insurance agents. Of course, we're going to send you that ID card that you asked for while we were shopping at the grocery store. We're insurance agents. Of course, we drive around the neighborhoods looking at everybody's roofs and commenting on the trees that are going to fall in your neighbor's house. We're insurance agents. Of course, we ask you about your dog and what type of breed they are, and we listen to stories about how they only bit the mailman that one time. We're insurance agents. Of course, we're going to walk around your house and take pictures of all sides, and then we're going to talk to you about installing a railing on your steps. We're insurance agents. Of course, we put road service on your policy, but we don't put it on our own. We're insurance agents. Of course, we got boots on our back seat. We've got files galore. We've got paperwork. We've got a measuring tape, and we got briefcases. We're Team Rosback, and we're here to protect your family and your assets that you've accumulated all your life. That's why we're here to work hard for you. P.S. Personal Service.
Welcome to Salt Church. We have been in existence for 16 years already, and the main purpose of even having this kind of a experience with everyone is to really dive into the Word. We serve, we anoint, we live, and we train people to just be open to what God is doing in our lives. You are welcome here at Salt Church. We have services Sunday morning at 10:30 here in the sanctuary, but we also have breakfast at 9 o'clock and discipleship training in between the two. So it's a really happening place here on Sunday mornings. We also have life groups, men's groups, women's groups, youth groups, worship stuff. We have all sorts of things for the whole family. Come check us out. We'd love to see you.
Did you recently purchase a new car? Is your auto loan interest rate too high? Then stop into Corey Federal Credit Union for the Swap and Drop. We will swap your loan to CFCU and drop your interest rate by 1%. Yep, you heard right. Let us drop your interest rate by 1% or more. Apply online or stop in any location to fill out an application. Don't delay. In 2020, we saved our members an average of $1,606.24 off their existing auto loan. So put more money back in your pocket today. Find out how much we can save you at Corey Federal Credit Union, your credit union. CFCU is located in Corey, Union City, and Spartansburg, and online at www.coreyfcu.org. Floor rate is 1.99%. Some terms and conditions apply. CFCU federally insured by NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
And welcome back in here to the Deej Peeps Sports Podcast. Scott Lockwood with you, Rob Elchinski, Dewey Hurd with special guest, head coach of the Corey Beavers volleyball team, Mr. Kelly Goodsell in the house. So we're going to get into next year and what's to come for the Beavers volleyball squad. First, let's get to the AVCA Coach of the Year. Now, Friday the 19th of December, you will take a trip to Louisville, Kentucky. So what does all that entail, and how's all that affect you personally?
Yeah, so very briefly, so the AVCA is American Volleyball Coaches Association, and it basically is a sharing and best practices way of coaches and the sport to educate and develop future coaches. And every year they have a convention centered around the semifinals and finals of the national championship for women's volleyball. And so I've been a member since I started coaching 17, 18 years ago, and I've attended probably 10 or 12 of them. And it's a great way. They have all kinds of training classes. They have sand courts built to teach people how to, coach beach volleyball. They've got indoor courts built so that they're showing how to serve or run an offense, or and then you get everybody from Karch Karai and John Spara, national team coaches, to college coaches, and so the AVCA selected 27 coaches from around the country, high school coaches, and they're each in a region of region 2 is Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, and one other, maybe New York and West Virginia. And so they select based on being a member and your season and career and that kind of thing. So very honored, very humbled to be selected. It's pretty cool. And the event is Friday night, or Friday afternoon is the luncheon. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to attend in person because Meg, our youngest, is graduating from college at Penn State Barron, and I want to make sure that she gets through graduation. So my wife is going to celebrate. I am going to celebrate for a different reason. So yeah, unfortunately, I won't be there in person, but I've sent in my appreciation to the AVCA for that.
All right, so let's talk about the 25-26 season. So Pat spoke at the banquet for the first time ever. Mm-hmm. Had mentioned that Corey had the top 2 teams in District 10. So we look at this team next year. Obviously, Grace Allen, the lead horse, and briefly, she turned it up a dial or two towards down the stretch, especially in the playoffs. That kid's going to be something special.
Yeah, she when she was in 8th grade, I mentioned to her mom and dad that she had the potential to really be something special, something potentially a 4-time All-State or 3-time All-State kind of player, and quite frankly, I mean, so this is the balance between a team and a program, right? So if it was all about just the team and just about individual kids, she would have played more as a freshman, and she probably would have been a 6 rotation player as a sophomore. And but it's not all about her, right? It's about the team and it's about the program, and so she is going to get a lot more recognition next year because she's going to be on the court more. And people are going to go, wow, she can play defense. Wow, she can serve. Wow, she can do all the things that she didn't get a chance to do this year. But, the team is a team of 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, 9 people. And so Grace can be a stud athlete, but if we can't pass the ball, we can't set the ball to her, then she's not going to get very much recognition. So the team next year, I think, is going to have some early season learning. But I honestly think that we're going to be just as competitive next year. We're going to be a different team. So this team this year was small, super athletic, quick, defensive-minded, and we would just wear teams out with don't let the ball touch the floor, and sooner or later they'll make a mistake, right? Next year, I think we're going to be much more of a let's go just hammer the ball, right? You got Grace, you got Reagan Kemp, you got Riley Nickerson, you got Lauren Brundage, who is just, I mean, for a freshman this year, in any other year, she would have been playing on the varsity at some point. And so you've got a lot of big, much bigger than our team this year, pin hitters, middle, and then you've got a lot of DS. The whole senior class basically is DS. Bailey McCrae, Brindley Watrous, and Sid Minio all saw varsity time this year. Ava Hallberg as a setter may run a 6'2", and so yeah, we've got we may not have as a deep a team next year because just the 8 seniors kind of weighed that into a deep team, but yeah, and then we haven't even talked about the middle schoolers that are going to come up as freshmen, Ava West and Comets and Reagan Kemp's little sister Macy Kemp and Liv Swan, and there's a bunch of Jordan Watrous, Brindley Watrous' little sister. Yep. I'm excited about next year. That starts today. Our JO season winter process helps make kids better, and we're excited about it.
And how do you, Kelly, take, right? So I don't want to say the younger kids have kind of had a free ride, but they've had a free ride a little bit, right? Of, in the past of your teams, right? Of watching you coach in all these years, right? I mean, young kids have always had to take on a leadership role. And this year, and I'm not saying they didn't, but they didn't really have to, right? Because you had such a nucleus of seniors, and that included last year. So, I mean, last year they were the leaders. This year they were the leaders, right? So how do you take, and it's going to be hard for Grace to be the emotional leader, all those things, right? Because she's just going to be
too much on her shoulders,
exhausted, right?
Yep,
I mean, just from a physical, emotional, mental, right? A lot of pressure on Grace, right? And so how do you tell the girls, right? Hey, we need you to step up, right? We need you to be those, because it's the last girl on the bench. Again, watching the college girls, you see how these are the best girls that have ever played, right? They've all been 4-year All-State in their states, and they don't even get in a game, and they are the most excited players on the court. And how do you convince these girls that that's part of their role, and how do you teach that?
Well, so it's part of our program. So one of the things that we talk about at every class is how they get involved, right? So seniors, there's leadership roles, and there's on and off the court kind of leadership development that we work with them on. Everything from picking the color of their tournament jerseys to setting up charity night to those kind of things. And then as juniors, we talk about giving them roles and giving them expectations that they need to start practicing, right? So in practice, you need to be a leader. You can't wait for the seniors to do it. You need to start practicing, because inevitably, as juniors, they see the seniors being bossy, and they think the way I'm going to be the leader is be bossy. And so they go out as juniors and be bossy, and everybody on the team hates them for a week. And it's like, okay, there's your first lesson, right? You can't be bossy to be the boss. You got to figure out how to integrate the team. And then we do the same thing on the JV team, right? So Reagan Kemp, as a freshman 2 years ago, was kind of our go-to hitter, but didn't handle that pressure very well. Last year, or this past season, as a sophomore, we really talked to her, especially in tournaments where it's a long day, and she was the go-to person, getting kills all the time. We talked to her about, okay, how do you take that pressure? How do you accept it? How do you perform? And then also, how do you become a good teammate so that if you didn't get the set, right, if you think you're the stud and you don't get the ball and somebody else makes an error, how do you help them be better the next time? How do you be a good teammate? And so a lot of it is how we talk in practices and games, and just kind of work with kids to be a leader, right? And we start talking about it. So 4th, 5th, and 6th grade rec program, we tell the kids and we tell the parents that we have 3 goals. We want to build loud, confident, and assertive young women. And we start talking to them in 4th grade about that. And so by the time they're seniors, it's an expectation, right? Every time we practice, every time we play in a tournament, we want them to get better, we want them to learn, and we want them to have fun. And so we try to keep things simple so that they can repeat them, they can remember them, and hopefully execute on them.
I want to talk about the defense. That back row this year, Rob has said on numerous occasions, we've got the 2 best liberos in the state of Pennsylvania. It was hard to give Sid Woods her due flowers because you're playing next to an all-state libero, 2-year all-state libero. With those 2 gone, who can we expect to see fill those 2? Because that's big back there. We kind of know Sid. We've seen a lot of Sid, but mostly as a serving specialist. Who do we expect to fill those roles coming right out of the gate?
Well, let's start with Sid Woods. Just one comment. So she won at she was awarded at the team banquet, the Deej Sportsmanship Award. And the comments we made about Sid was that she was the best teammate on the team. I mean, forget she was a great defensive specialist. Forget that she had a great serve. Forget all of that. She was the calm inside of the hurricane that kept that team together. I mean, she did a great job for us. And so who's coming up? That is going to be 2 positions that are going to be really in play for us is libero and DS. You got Sid Minio and Brindley Watrous that I think really are going to fight it out head-to-head for the libero position. And not that Bailey McCray can't play that position, but Sid and Brindley are more effective servers at this point than Bailey is. And so that is always a key, skill for us is serving. So, got a whole year to figure this out. But early in the clubhouse lead, I would say, is Brindley and Sid from a libero standpoint. And then from a DS standpoint is the one that's not playing libero, Bailey McCray. And then you've got Allie Yetzer and Ellie Carey both really came on this year on the JV team. So I think we've got 5 DS's, libero kind of people. And then, you'll see it in the middle school season. Michaela Comets may be one of our best early DS libero passing kind of specialists that we've had at that 8th grade level in a long time. So, I think it's going to be 6 deep. It's some of that in-game experience will be developed during JO seasons, but yeah, it's I don't think just because we took 2 out of the cupboard doesn't mean the cupboard's bare. We're gonna have plenty of people to fill those roles.
It's like that 6-shooter, right, Dewey? You say it all the time. Just reload and have at it again.
Yep.
Hammer down. We know you got Grace going to be the go-to on that other side. Lauren Brundage is going to be interesting to watch because she's got some length to her. Muma's your main setter, right? I thought Haley, as the season went on, got extremely. You could see the growth in her. We have Ava Hallberg. Who would be the other one in contention there?
So just kind of going down the position, right? So from a setting position, you got Haley as a junior, Ava as a senior. You got Naomi Brown coming as a sophomore, and she does some really good things. And so she'll definitely be leading the JV side of things and maybe fighting for some varsity time. And then you've got Macy Kemp as an 8th grader going to come as a freshman, right? So we should end up with 3 or 4, depending on injuries and everything that happens in school. 3 or 4 very capable setters. In terms of pin hitters, and I'm using that term as opposed to outside and right side because I think next year, because of our size and our length, we're going to have more pin hitters and less outsides and right sides. Like Grace, I think, if we could develop the outside position better, we may put her on the right side because she just does so many good things for us. So you got Grace, Reagan Kemp, Lauren Brundage, Ava West is an 8th grader coming. Is got a lot of capability. And then middles, I think middle is probably the one position that is up for grabs a little bit. You got Riley Nickerson coming back as a junior. Kendall Donahue really made some really nice improvements in the JV season this year. Liv Swan is an 8th grader. You got Chantel Dine. You got Morgan Vanderschaff and Katrina Downey that are definitely going to get some JV time, and also depending on how they develop. I mean, it's such a crazy sport. Katrina Downey as an 8th grader back in April or May of this year was one of those kids that we looked around and it's like, are we going to keep her in the fall? Is she good enough? Is it just, she's athletic, but she just doesn't get the game, right? From August until November, she was our most improved player on the team, bar none. She went from, do we even want to have her in the gym, to we took her from the right side where she was doing phenomenal and actually had her play outside one match. That was a disaster, but had her play outside because we wanted to keep challenging her to grow, right? She had grown so much on the right side. It's like, okay. And that's typically what you do with freshmen is you start them on the right side. They don't have to pass. They don't have to serve. They get subbed out in the back row. They just have to be tall and, maybe get a hit once a game, right? We did that with Rachel Brady. We did that with Lauren, Ryan Brundage. Typically, Brooke Jonkus, you play him as a freshman on the right side to get him experience, but really don't count on him for anything. And so Katrina did that and really, really improved. So, yeah, I'm excited about the team. I'm sure I missed a couple kids. So, if the parents call you or call me, I apologize right now. But
I kind of put them on the spot here.
But we are going to be really competitive. I think, talk about the other teams in the, region. So Cathedral Prep will come back probably as the favorite. You got Cam Resurrection as their setter, will be a junior. You got Nixon, the big middle, is going to be a junior. You got Sparrows, which will be a junior on the outside. So they're going to have 3
and the libero Moore.
And Moore will be a senior next year. Yep.
So you got four of their 6 pieces that are really solid, and so that will be probably the team going into the early season predictions is the favorite. We'll see. Fairview will have a decent team, but they lose their setter, Addison Green, who was able to make the All-State team. She did a phenomenal job. I think, quite frankly, had Peyton run a 5-1 and been on the court the entire year, she would have been an All-State setter. But just because of her height and our ability to bring Emily Carr in and hit on the right side, who really developed really well this year, we didn't need her to. And it was a way to develop Haley Mumma. But I think Fairview will take a step back just because of their setting position. Northeast will get better. Dan Herring is a great coach, and following his first year, I'm sure that team will get better. So it'll be an exciting year next year.
Are we adding any more coaches this off season?
No. Well, I don't know. We've got a couple that we've been that were on the volunteer list that because of personal commitments to other things we didn't have in the gym much. But the good news is we're not losing any unless my daughter Meg gets a job. Hint, hint. Out of town. But no, it's phenomenal to have Pat on the bench and in the gym every day. Mark Brenner does an awesome job with our JV team and middle school and JOs. Amy Allen brings a breath of fresh air every day to practice and to the matches. And Meg Goodsell is probably one of the most important ads that we've made this year, because I am not a setting coach, and she's been a setter for 8-9 years, and been coached at the collegiate level. That she was able to bring a renewed focus to that position that I don't have, and really helped us. Peyton and Haley Muma and Naomi, I think, would all tell you that they're better because she was in the gym.
So 2026, there's some shifting going on. You talked about earlier 6 classes.
Yeah, so the PIAA has voted that volleyball is going to follow the same path as basketball and football, and they're going to go to 6 classifications. And so instead of today there being 4 classifications, right? So McDowell is Quad A, Warren and Meadville are Triple A, Corey and
22 other teams.
Yeah, 22 teams are Double A, and then Maplewood and Sagertown are Single A. It will go to 6 classifications. So you'll end up with Erie and McDowell is probably a 5A, 6A kind of class, and then all the middle Double A and Triple A teams will be spread out, I think, more. So, yeah, it is what it is. We can't control it, but I think PIAA has reasons for doing it. They may be financially motivated, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
We've been to 10 out of the last 11 District 10 finals, and that is our goal every year because that gets us into the state playoffs, and so that's the goal in 25. And then when we get to 6 classifications in 26, we'll do it again.
So, looking forward to that point, would that change then from taking 2 teams in each class? Do you
There's a potential, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So what the state does is it says, okay, how many volleyball programs are there in the state, and then they do a census on every high school and how many kids are in each high school, and then they split those by class, right? And so they do the same thing for football and basketball, and so when they do a census and there's 222 kids in a class, and that cuts you between AAA and AA, that's an important number. And Northwest Pennsylvania tends to have a lot of schools like Corey in that 150 to 175, 200 range that, we'll see where that splits out.
It'll be interesting for sure as we look forward to the next season. Rob, you got anything else?
No, I know this has been fun. Great season to kind of recap and go over and get Coach Goodsell's input and thoughts on it, and look forward to the future. I mean, we talked throughout the year, right? I mean, I think next year's team, right, has the potential to duplicate, maybe not as dominantly as this year's team, of what this year's team did, right? I mean, I think to think, oh boy, what are we going to do? I think we know what we're going to do, right? I mean, there's the core is there, and there's a lot of experience there, even though you didn't necessarily get to see it this year. But I mean, these girls are going to go play, 5,000 matches between now and September, and they'll get all the court time they need.
Yep. Just a couple of comments, if I might.
Yeah.
Before you cut me off
absolutely.
and throw me out. So there are 9 seniors this year, right, that are no longer with the volleyball program. But just a shout out. So prior to this year, there were 14 kids in the history of Corey volleyball that had been to 4 D10 finals in a row, and that went from 14 to 23 because of this class. And it's kudos to that whole group staying together, because usually you lose a kid or 2, and so that kudos to Kendall Chamberlain for showing up every day and that entire class sticking together. So that's thought number 1. Thought number 2 is we support or we appreciate all the support that you guys have given us, and so.
Oh, jeez, no way.
Wow.
We have a small token of our appreciation.
Oh,
So
Kelly.
a state medal for
That's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you, sir.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yep. So if you do it again next year, and we do it again next year, maybe you'll get another medal. But you got to be there the whole season.
Thank you so much. As part of this community, I can't say enough how much I appreciate all the support. Viking Plastics, Dynasty Construction, Corey Federal Credit Union, Lifted Health even sponsored this year. There's been so many.
Sawyer Builders.
Sawyer Builder. I mean, we had 43 businesses that stayed with us after our departure. And I'm just thrilled to death to be a part of this every year. And I remember when we started, I don't know if you remember these guys.
Yep.
But this is where it started. And the camera you're on right now was the OG camera that this little guy right here. It's where we started with Corey Volleyball because nobody wanted to cover them because they didn't make money. So when you don't make money, you don't get covered. And we wanted to change that. And man, this means the world to me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We're excited to go back next year. We'll be there.
Well, if you look at women's volleyball, if you look at men's volleyball, which I'm on a board to help grow men's volleyball around the country, and you look at Corey volleyball, I mean, it's a growing sport, and maybe it didn't make money last year or the year before, but we think it's a sport that people are getting more and more invested in, and I think it's more likely that people are going to make money on it. So, no, we appreciate your support. We appreciate the entire community support, the administration support. And, Pat and I and the entire coaching staff love what we do, and looking forward to doing it again next year.
Is there a chance at all that we start maybe seeing a boys team talked about?
There is not. It's funny you say that. So I was moving some files around on my computer this morning, and I came across my 2012 Corey Volleyball Program proposal to the school board to add boys volleyball because my kids at the time, JP and Austin, were coming up, and I wanted to see if we could get a boys program. I said I would coach for free. We already had the balls, the nets. All we need to do is, name a team. And the school board said, no, thank you. But we were able to do a co-op with Fort LaBeouf. So my boys both ended up playing. Both were all-state players and played with the Fort LaBeouf team, which, built a relationship with Sean and Leanne Johnson. And so while there isn't one in Corey, if people want to have their kids play volleyball, there's a way to do that. As a matter of fact, Mercier's Prep and Seneca just named a co-op for boys volleyball. So there is a way to do it if you want your kids to play.
And that would be something that I would be highly interested in covering. So,
okay.
If that happens, let us know because I would be there and I would put Dewey to work on softball and baseball and and of course, we got Stephen Union City that can chip in as well. But
sure.
Coach, it's been a heck of a ride this year. I've enjoyed it. The medal will go in my case with my signed ball. By the way, there's only 2 signed balls for both teams that went to the state finals. Rick Spears has one.
Yep.
And I've got the other one.
You got the other one. Yep.
So, it's been a fun ride, and we can't wait to do it again next year as we get through these next 2 seasons. Not a real big basketball fan, but we cover it because we love the kids. I'm excited for softball season. Captain Basketball over here has got something to say.
Wait, we go to almost all the home.
We seen you, and
games.
we usually get you on cameras.
Yeah.
So we point you out, and with all the royalty that walks into the gym, as Rob calls them. But we're excited to get back to volleyball season, and we're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
So with that, any final thoughts there,
I have to say, Coach, when we have the post-game interviews and the girls come up, I always look forward to that. They're always very well spoken. They're talkative. They carry themselves well, and it's a reflection on how you treat them in practice and prepare them for so much more than just volleyball. You prepare them for life in general. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, I would. After seeing some of those interviews, I think we need to work on preparing them a little bit better. but yes, they're a great reflection of their parents and the school and our program as well. So thank you for mentioning that.
And we look to do more. I have a way now that we can mic you up on a game day if you'd like.
Oh, boy.
We can keep it off the broadcast, but we'll just have it so when we put our videos and stuff together, that's an option. And
Okay.
I'm looking at a couple options for maybe a net cam next year. And of course, we'd have to go through the school district and all that. We got a new scoreboard nest that plugs into the scoreboard, so I don't have to click a million buttons while I'm trying to do 10 other things. So we're figuring it out. But we got a lot going on, and we just want to thank you and your contributions while at Vikings over the years, and the volleyball boosters. And so we're looking forward to next year, and can't wait to get it going.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Dewey.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to wrap us up here today for the Deej Peeps Sports Podcast end of it. We'll get to picks and stuff next week when we get Mr. Mountain back, our NFL picks.
Go Lions.
College picks, go Lions.
For what are we picking?
Football.
College football?
Next week.
Penn State, baby.
Yeah.
You say Penn State Lions, I'll say Detroit Lions.
Penn State all the way. They got the draw.
They did. They got lucky.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. So
You got to play. But boy, if I had to pick a spot to be sitting,
yes,
I want to sit where I want to sit where Penn State's sitting.
all I know is Michigan is nowhere to be found, which makes me extremely happy after this debacle of a loss this year. So
Still a loss.
for Dewey Hurd, Rob Elchinski, I'm Scott Lockwood. Thank you to Coach Goodself for joining us today. You've been watching the Deej Peeps Podcast. We'll see you next Saturday. Same time, same website. Until then, God bless you all. Have a great day.
Thanks, Scott.